Tonight, closing arguments in the first criminal trial of a former president. What lawyers on both sides told their jury in their final pleas.
If there was an MVP, if there was a GOAT of liars, it is Michael Cohen.
Plus, the Academy Award-winning actor making his argument outside the courthouse.
This is the time to stop him by voting him out once and for all.
The CBS Evening News starts now. Tonight, a New York jury just hours from getting the historic case of the state of New York versus Donald J. Trump. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. Lawyers just wrapped up closing arguments summarizing the 6-week trial after more than 20 witnesses and hundreds of pieces of evidence. Prosecutors needed to prove two things beyond a reasonable doubt: that Trump falsified business records tied to payments to Stormy Daniels, and that those payments were made to cover up another crime: conspiracy to violate state election law. Now, Donald Trump's lawyers had their turn earlier today, attacking the evidence and the witnesses, especially former Trump fixer Michael Cohen, telling the jury that he's the MVP of liars. CBS's Robert Costa was inside the courthouse for all the day's highlights.
Allies say Donald Trump arrived confident at court this morning.
This is a very dangerous day for America.
Flanked by several members of his family. Today, they heard prosecutors outline how Trump, working with Michael Cohen and former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker, engaged in an alleged conspiracy and cover-up, burying scandalous stories while Trump ran for president, and falsifying records related to the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels, all of which Trump has denied.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels?
Cohen has previously testified that Trump directed him.
Mr. Trump is a con man. He asked me to pay off an adult film star with whom he had an affair.
Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass told jurors that Pecker, Cohen, and Trump met at Trump Tower to sort out the arrangement. This scheme cooked up by these men at this meeting could very well be what got President Trump elected, he said. Steinglass called it election fraud, and the National Enquirer a covert arm of the Trump campaign. But during their nearly 3-hour closing argument, Trump's defense team hammered Cohen's credibility, claiming he lied on the stand and called him the GLOAT, the greatest liar of all time. Tensions flared when lead defense attorney Todd Blanche told the jurors you cannot send somebody to prison based upon the words of Michael Cohen. That enraged Judge Juan Merchan, who clarified a prison sentence is not required in this case, even in conviction, and instructed them to disregard the remark.
Why do you think Todd Blanche tested the bounds of how far he could go in the closing arguments?
Because he knew he could get away with it. It was a cheap shot. He got away with it.
Trump's family members attacked the proceedings outside the courthouse.
He's the toughest man I've ever seen, and he endures this nonsense every single day.
And today, for the first time, the Biden campaign staged its own event steps from the courthouse door, with a warning from actor and Trump critic Robert De Niro.
This is the time to stop him by voting him out once and for all.
And Robert joins us now. An interesting day in court and outside court. I noted that when Trump lawyers were making their closing arguments, the Biden campaign held that press conference with those high-profile surrogates for the first time. Is that a change in strategy, and why?
It is. Biden campaign officials tell me they came here to frame Trump ahead of the first presidential debate next month, not just as a defendant, but as a threat to American democracy. Meanwhile, top Republicans privately tell me, Nora, that this is an uncertain political moment for the party. No one knows what's going to happen if the presumptive nominee is a convicted felon by the end of the week.
It's going to be quite a week. Robert Costa, thank you. There's also some breaking news from New Mexico, where a fighter jet crashed into a hillside and caught fire near an Air Force base in Albuquerque. Officials say the pilot of the F-35 stealth fighter was able to escape and was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The cause of the crash tonight is under investigation. Palestinian refugees at 2 different tent camps in Rafah reportedly came under deadly fire today after Sunday's explosion at a 3rd camp intensified international outrage. And media on the ground reports that Israeli tanks have rolled into the center of Rafah for the first time. For those reasons, the White House today faced some tough questions about what is happening inside Gaza. CBS' Imtiaz Tayeb starts us off in East Jerusalem with the latest.
The grief is unbearable as Palestinians weep for their dead after another Israeli strike at this camp in Rafah. At least 20 civilians were killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. A short distance away, at a different camp, local journalists report another deadly Israeli strike. All the children in the tent were wounded, says Fawad Maruf. Not a single one of them came out in one piece. Israel insists it isn't behind the attacks on the encampments, amid reports it's moving tanks into Rafah's city center. In the skies above, Israeli warplanes continued to drop bombs on what was Gaza's last safe haven. Israel's Sunday night assault on the camp, which killed 45 civilians, also triggered a massive fire, a fire which was unintended, according to an Israeli military spokesman, who also said an investigation into the strike was now underway. While at least 1 million Palestinians have now fled the violence in Rafah in the last few weeks alone. A CBS News team met this family fleeing to a fate unknown. The attack the other night was the darkest night we've ever seen since the war started, she says. We have nothing to do with Hamas. The mass displacement of civilians has triggered a humanitarian crisis the UN says it's struggling to contain, as U.S. officials say the $320 million humanitarian pier will be out of commission for at least a week, after part of the causeway broke away in rough seas.
And pressure is only mounting on Israel following Sunday's deadly strike, with European leaders demanding an immediate ceasefire, and as Norway, Spain, and Ireland formally recognize a Palestinian state tonight. Nora saying it was the only route to peace.
Imtiaz Tayeb, thank you. A White House official tells CBS News tonight that it has not seen a major ground operation in Rafah at this point, standing by Israel's right to use targeted airstrikes to root out top Hamas leaders. CBS's Ed O'Keefe pressed National Security spokesman John Kirby today on whether the president has a personal limit to the civilian suffering.
How many more charred corpses does he have to see before the president considers a change in policy?
We don't want to see a single more innocent life taken. And I kind of take a little offense at the question. No civilian casualties is the right number of civilian casualties. And this is not something that we've turned a blind eye to, nor has it been something we've ignored or neglected to raise with our Israeli counterparts, including, Ed, this weekend as a result of this particular strike. Now, they're investigating it, so let's let them investigate it and see what they come up with.
Now, here's why this is important. Earlier this month, President Biden said that if Israel invaded Rafah, the U.S. would stop supplying it with certain offensive weapons. Tonight, Texas is bracing for another round of severe weather as residents clean up from overnight damaging storms, including hurricane-force winds, large hail, and heavy rain. CBS's Tom Hansen is on the ground speaking with survivors.
Strong, powerful winds near 80 miles per hour slammed into Garland, Texas early this morning, damaging homes, uprooting trees. One came crashing into this neighbor's house.
The next one come down on the house, the ceiling, the rafters, the joists, everything came down in there. There's water running through there like a river.
To give you a sense of those powerful wind gusts, 80-mile-per-hour winds picked up this carport and folded it on top of the house. The man inside says he's okay. The storm's power knocked out power to more than 1 million people across the state, including Paige Dugan's home, where she rode out the storm in the dark.
We were just sitting there for a while, just like praying, hoping and praying the windows wouldn't bust.
The same storm system demolished this warehouse in Terrell. And in Hearst, Texas, homeowners and drivers were pelted with baseball-sized hail. And heavy rain pummeled this Dallas suburb and caused street flooding in Houston as severe weather continues to hammer Texas.
There's been a lot more storms right now than any other year, so I feel like it's just they're getting stronger.
And late this afternoon, a construction worker was killed after a building collapsed north of Houston. There's another round coming tonight. Here in Dallas, we could see more overnight storms before the sun comes up, with the possibility of flash flooding and tornadoes. Nora?
Tough for the people of Texas. Tom Hansen, thank you. Now to a historic billion-dollar pledge from philanthropist Melinda French Gates, focusing on women and girls around the world, including on reproductive rights right here in the U.S. Gates said decades of research shows investing in women and girls helps everyone, and she's concerned her one-year-old granddaughter may grow up with fewer rights than she's had. Here's CBS's Jamie Yukas.
$1 billion is a game changer.
The goal is to advance the power of women, and Melinda French Gates is putting a $1 billion gift towards the cause. A longtime advocate for reproductive rights globally, she's now focused on a post-Dobbs America, which includes helping the organization that represented the clinic in the landmark case.
Is this a political statement?
It's a statement about the importance of investing in gender equality.
In an essay, French Gates writes about 2% of charitable giving in the U.S. goes to organizations focused on women and girls, adding, when we allow this cause to go so chronically underfunded, we all pay the cost.
Is there a lesson here, too, that when women support other women, stuff gets done? Yes, yes, yes.
2 years ago, we sat down with her and Ai-jen Poo, an advocate for domestic caregivers, also sharing this new gift.
It's a really bold investment, and it's a testament to the way that Melinda and her organization are making a big bet on women.
A dozen global leaders, including former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, filmmaker Ava DuVernay, and former Olympian Allyson Felix, will each get $20 million to aid women's health, a continuation of the mission French Gates discussed with CBS's Gayle King.
We should have a society where if for whatever reason wealth is in your hands, you put it back in society so that you change and you lift up others.
She and Mackenzie Scott, the ex-wife of former Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, are choosing to give to organizations they trust and allow them to spend those billions how they see fit without intervening. Nora?
Jamie Yukas, thank you very much. After the shocking death of a 37-year-old soap opera star in Los Angeles, a message tonight from his former fiancée to his killer. That's next. The ex-fiancé of the former soap actor who was shot and killed in Los Angeles over the weekend posted an emotional message to his murderer. Tessa Farrell tearfully calling out the gunman who remains on the run.
If you're watching, I'm sorry, but you shot the wrong guy.
Police say Johnny Wachter was shot while confronting thieves trying to steal his car's catalytic converter for money. Tonight, a rare apology from the Vatican. Pope Francis saying he's sorry for reportedly using a slur directed at gay men. Italian newspapers say the 87-year-old Pope made the disparaging remark last week during a private meeting with Italian bishops. A Vatican spokesman said today the Pope didn't mean to use the homophobic term and apologizes to all who were offended. Next, Eye in America will show you the innovative approach police officers are using to more effectively respond to calls involving someone in mental distress. Across the country, a quarter of all fatal police shootings involve a person with a serious mental illness. The sheriff's office in Cook County, Illinois, has created a first-of-its-kind co-responder program relying on compassion more than force. And a warning to viewers, this story shows people in crisis and includes thoughts of suicide. Here's CBS's Usher Qureshi with tonight's Eye on America.
This is where the guy was. He was on the outside of the railing. I felt he was ready to jump at any second.
Seconds count. Every word counts. When you're trying to talk someone off the literal ledge.
I feel you, brother. No.
Body cam shows these critical moments in February when Officer Dave Steick was first to arrive at this bridge outside of Chicago.
My man, I need you to give me a hug. My name's Dave. Brother, I love you. All right? My friends are here, and we're going to help you back over.
While officers succeeded here, Steick admits police are not best qualified to counsel people in crisis.
They don't train you. This is exactly what you do. This is the step A through Z of how to talk someone off of a bridge. And it's not really a police thing.
1 in 4 people with a serious mental illness is arrested at some point during their lifetime. And keep in mind, they're 16 times more likely to be killed in an encounter with police.
To reduce those odds, Cook County Sheriff's officers bring mental health counselors like Ellie Montgomery to the scene virtually.
They're getting a tool that they've never had before in which they can get a mental health professional on scene in seconds.
What's the matter with him? He's harming himself.
Officers used it for the first time with this man in crisis in 2020.
You want to hold on to this for me?
Once it de-escalated, he talked to a counselor on the tablet.
I'm not that good, but I got you kind of calm down. She's a lot better at this.
The sheriff's office has a team of behavioral health experts on call 24/7 by phone or video. They helped Lachelle Wardell's grandson with his mental health and trouble at school.
What do you think would have happened if you hadn't been able to get the help that you needed through the sheriff's department?
Oh, I don't even really want to think about that, Usher. It's transformed our lives and changed the trajectory for my entire family.
How's your grandson doing now?
He's made the honor roll. I've never seen anything like this. I kind of tear up thinking about this because they walked with us and held our hand through the whole process. Because it was so difficult. It was very, very difficult.
The use of remote counseling on scene nearly doubled in 3 years, according to Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart.
We don't need to have 100 mental health clinicians on staff here. We are working with 15 or 16 right now, and that more than covers it because you don't have to physically be there.
This is a new program we started yesterday. I'm going to see how this works.
Getting buy-in was a challenge at first, but when officers have called for virtual backup, the sheriff's office says no one's been arrested, injured, or killed.
Can this work in other places?
I cannot think of a place where this would not work.
And it needs to work.
I'm here for you. If there's nobody else that is, then I'm here for you.
Because officers can't always make saves like this on their own. For Eye on America, I'm Usher Qureshi in Chicago.
It's an important first step. All right, coming up, proof that nurses are real-life superheroes, and it's all caught on tape. That's next. Finally, tonight's Heart of America. Meet nurses Doreen Thrash and Marcus Walton. They were thrust into action when a friendly basketball game turned into a race against time after a player collapsed. That's when the nurses rushed to help the man who went into cardiac arrest, quickly performing CPR. Others jumped in with an assist, calling 911 and grabbing a nearby defibrillator. Thankfully, the player is expected to be okay.
He started breathing. It was a blessing to see that happen.
It shows you that, you know, if you have a good community, people who are willing to step up and help each other.
Teamwork on and off the court. Nurses Doreen Thrash and Marcus Walton, they are tonight's Heart of America. We love nurses. And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.